Okay, good afternoon. Aloha and welcome. Nice to see you folks here. My name is Thomas Daubert. I'm Executive Director of Friends of Kauai Wildlife Refuges, and I'm delighted to welcome you, those folks in the room here today, as well as those on Zoom, and those who will be watching this on our YouTube channel later. So thank you for tuning in for what is going to be another really great talk. So we're delighted to have you join us. So before we jump in, this is my once a month chance for a little ad for who we are, what we do, why we're here, and keeping us all connected. So thank you for that if you already know who we are. And for those that aren't as familiar, um, this series is our Princeville Moʻolelo series, presented in partnership along with the Princeville at Hanalei Community Association. We have good snacks in the front row. I want you to enjoy yourself and sustain yourself. A little humor goes a long way. Friends of Kauai Wildlife Refuges was established over 40 years ago to be the nonprofit friends group supporting our island's 3 national wildlife refuges. Again, I'm just so honored that on our little island, we have 3 spaces set aside, federally protected for the support of endangered water birds and seabirds at Hanalei, Kuleʻia, and Kilauea Point. And we, as the Friends Group, help to fill in the gaps financially and programmatically to help sustain this important work. So our why, what gets us up every morning and gets us to our desks and for work, is these birds. They absolutely need our support and our awareness and our advocacy. So at Hanalei and Kuleʻia, these spaces were established specifically to protect native Hawaiian water birds. And in other series, we will continue to chat about how critically endangered these birds are becoming for us. So there's a lot more for us to be aware of and to talk about for our water bird populations. However, today we're going to be talking about our seabirds. And among the places where they thrive is at Kilauea Point National Wildlife Refuge, which was established for native Hawaiian seabirds and their habitats. How we do what we do, essentially as a nonprofit, we go out and we raise funds and we help support the programs of the refuge. We provide in-kind staffing supports, primarily out at Kilauea Point. Our team is the one that manages and staffs the visitor center at Kilauea Point and helps generate earned income through nature store sales. And we get out into the community, sharing awareness about our work and gathering a community like we are today and online, keeping us connected, aware, and energized to do the work that we need to do as a community. Some of the pillar programs that we're really honored to support is our friends with Save Our Shearwaters. We're so honored to provide funding to help underwrite the care for sick and injured birds transferred from our 3 refuges over to Save Our Shearwaters. We go out, as I said, into the community, meeting people wherever they are, young and old, and educating them about our wildlife and the importance of the spaces that we help protect and the wildlife management that we help support. We also directly work with education programs because keiki are certainly the future of wildlife conservation. In particular, one of the programs we're really excited to underwrite are free buses to get young people from the schools at Kilauea Point for the incredibly inspirational experience of seeing Kilauea Point and learning more about the Leighton albatross. Another program linked to education that we're really honored to further is honoring the incredible work of Daniel Moriarty through annual scholarships. And this past year, we supported 14 lovely young ladies, just happened to be all amazing young ladies, who are all studying in conservation-based careers. And we awarded a total of $30,000 in scholarships to support them. So the ripple effect of that work for years to come is immeasurable. And we're so honored to be a part of their future and the work that they're going to be a part of. Primarily, though, we raise money to directly plug into all of the programs and all of the work that the refuge does, managing habitats, doing wildlife monitoring, helping to restore habitats, all in an effort to make these spaces thrive for the wildlife that needs them. And this year was a real high water mark, both in need and an opportunity for us as a Friends Group. We provided over $115,000 worth of direct support for refuge programs this year for them to essentially help keep the lights on and keep their programs going through what, as we all know, has been and continues to be, since today we're speaking to you under a government shutdown, a really challenging year. So I'm just so honored to see the arc of growth of our work, basically by building a community that has responded to the needs of our refuge in a time of need. And like I said, over $115,000 this year, plus $40,000 directly given to Save Our Shearwaters, plus $30,000 in scholarships, plus another $40,000 to help support a capital campaign of Malama Hula'ia and a really important piece of equipment that they're purchasing to help remove invasive red mangrove. So an incredible high water mark year for us. And for us, I really say our whole community, because we are just the stewards of your generosity flowing through us and directly in need of our refuge program. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And a little confetti moment for all of our success this year, because there's certainly a lot more work for us to do to help support this important work. So mahalo. Just in general, if you're not already plugged into our community, visit us out at Kilauea Point. Even though we're under a government shutdown, the refuge is open. Our visitor center is closed. The nature store is closed, but please continue to enjoy that incredible space. I would say shop our nature store when we're back open. Volunteer your time, donate and join as a member, join our newsletter and stay connected to our work. And essentially, thank you for becoming a part of our community and learning more about our needs and how you can help. That's my plug. Thank you for riding along on the way for that. The Princeville Moʻolelo is a monthly series where we come together and share stories of conservation work and cultural work. And we're really excited to have in November, our dear friend up here at the desk here, Louise Barnfield, is going to come and kick off the mole nesting season with a talk about the Albatross Demographic Project. So that one will be back on our normal day. Today we're here on a Wednesday. Originally, we had put this on a unique day, all in an effort so that it would fall within National Wildlife Refuge Week, which was intended to be a whole week-long celebration of different events and activities to celebrate our lands and to bring people together. And unfortunately, our event now is the only piece that's left of the week's activities. But that's what we're here as a friends group, to keep charging ahead despite the challenges of our government friends. So in any event, we will be back on our regular Tuesday dates, November 18th, hosting Louise, and we look forward to her talk. But today, you're in for an incredible treat as we host Dilek Sahin. She's with the Kauai Endangered Seabird Recovery Project. And let me just say a few words about her before I shift over and you get to what you really came here to hear about. So Dilek is a seabirds biologist with a strong background in conservation. She holds a BS in science from a number of degrees of universities from Turkey. And I'm laughing because I would absolutely butcher these names. So she gave me permission to abbreviate that. But my gosh, just one amazing study and degree after another. And she holds a PhD and it just has so much information and experience to share with us tonight. She has studied conservation genomics. Did I say that right? I really should have read this first. Genomics of Mediterranean shearwaters. And since 2010, she has worked on seabird conservation projects across Europe, more recently on Kauaʻi, and her work is focused on protecting endangered seabirds through research and management, predator control, biosecurity, reducing light pollution, bless you, and fisheries bycatch, and encouraging behavior change to support conservation. It takes a village, and this is an incredible organization that we've really been wanting for a long time to include back in our series here. So it is my absolute honor to welcome Dilek. Thank you.
Stay there. Thank you very much for the introduction. And yes, all my education are from Turkish universities. I'm from Turkey. So if my accent is challenging somehow, I'm more than happy to repeat things. So please slow me down if I'm speaking fast or not very clear, etc. But yeah, I'm representing Kauai Endangered Seabird Recovery Project here with my colleague Hazel, and she helped me putting this presentation together as well, just like any other work that the small team is doing. But yes, we are the state program hired by University of Hawaiʻi. We are associated with both. And the Kauai Endangered Seabird Recovery Project has been running since 2006. The name implies we are focusing on the 3 endangered species on the island and trying to reverse the decline in their populations since 2006. But the seabird work on the island goes well past 2006. It started way earlier, but it's at least in a more strategic and structured way right now. We have a very small team, but we are doing, I do believe, amazing work with that small team. Everyone is so enthusiastic and motivated. And one of the things we focus on the most, especially in this time of the year, is the light pollution. And yeah, here we're going to talk more about why we focus on light pollution, why it's a problem for the seabirds and especially endangered seabirds, and what people can do to help us, because light pollution is one of the conservation challenges that is really solvable, easy. We just need more support from the community, and that's the reason we are here today to talk about this. Okay, I will start with introducing the species in case, there might be people who are not really familiar with them, because most of these seabirds are really out of sight. So one of the greatest challenges with seabird conservation is that the species that we are trying to protect are out of the sight. The lay public, daytime, they don't see them. And we're really lucky on Kauaʻi. We had many seabirds around, at least during daytime, to see, like mole or other seabirds like Eva. We see them, right? But not necessarily maybe knowing their life history traits really well, which I'll be hopefully talking about that, sharing that. And we will be hopefully leaving this room with a lot more information on their life history traits. But these 3 species are really out of sight. So we're talking about the ʻaʻo, Newell shearwater, Hawaiian petrel, ʻuaʻu, and then band-rumped storm-petrel, ʻakēʻakē. And I'm going to introduce all of them, especially how to identify them, because we will be talking about searching for these birds in the fallout season. But on the maps, you can see their distribution across the Hawaiian Islands. All 3 species are endemic to the Hawaiian Islands. Only ʻakēʻakē is endemic at the subspecies level. This is very scientific detail about it, but what we need to know is the population that lives on Hawaiian Islands of ʻakēʻakē is special, that we need to really protect. Otherwise, it has a distribution on the other part of the world, across the Atlantic, etc. But these 2 species, ʻaʻo and ʻuaʻu, is strictly endemic to the Hawaiian Islands. And when it comes to ʻaʻo, Kauaʻi holds 90% of the global population. So I just want to emphasize, I just want to slow down here and inform you that if we lose ʻaʻo on Kauaʻi, that means we're losing ʻaʻo globally, right? Almost exclusively they are living on Kauaʻi. We have populations on the other islands, but they are small. I'm sure if we invest more time, maybe we can find more population, but there has been studies going on and still Kauaʻi is the largest population. For ʻuaʻu, it's actually quite similar. We have larger populations on the island of Hawaii and Maui, but the Kauaʻi population is still one of the largest. And also, it seems like, coming from genomics background, Kauaʻi population is also phenologically a little bit different than the other ones. And there is some studies showing genetically they might be different as well. So again, when you think about these species being endemic to the Hawaiian Islands, protecting ʻuaʻu on Kauaʻi is also important, not just because Kauaʻi is a large population, but it might be also genetically different population as well. And when it comes to ʻakēʻakē, it's a mystery bird. We know they are on Kauaʻi, we know they are on the other islands too, but only Hawaii Islands start to locate their birds thanks to conservation dogs. They are, I don't know if you heard the stories, but they are collaborating with the conservation dogs. And because locating the nests are really difficult, these are small birds. And so the dogs are really successful in finding them with the lead of scientists, of course, based on past observations, etc. On Kauaʻi, we know they are mostly on the Nepali coast, but we don't have any accessible colony yet. And different teams are trying to attract this species using social attraction to certain places around nearby colonies, but we still don't have any accessible colony on the island. So our management for ʻakēʻakē is very limited, and we need to do a lot of research on them. I just want to point out also another species, which is ʻuaʻu. It's another shearwater species, and it's really common all around the island, especially in the coastal sites. Like here, you have large colonies and Kilauea Point has one of the largest colonies. Mokuʻaia has one of the largest colonies. The distinction I want to touch on is ʻaʻo almost exclusively live in the interior mountains of the Kauaʻi. We have one exception, which is the Kilauea Point National Wildlife Refuge, and that colony was kind of human assisted, started in 60s with cross fostering. They took the eggs from the mountains, put them under wedge-tailed shearwaters, ʻuaʻu, and let them raise these chicks. And because seabirds have high, what we call philopatry, where they return to the site that they hatched to breed. So these birds return to Kilauea Point, and there's still a population going on. It's a small one, and there's a lot of competition going on between ʻuaʻu and ʻaʻo, but that's an exceptional one coastal population that we have. Apart from that, it's all in the interior mountains, but ʻuaʻu is all around the shore. But ʻuaʻu is also as vulnerable to light pollution as the other endangered species. It's just the status of it. Protection is different than the other endangered seabirds. But if you see them on the ground, that's also something to rescue. So I'm gonna slowly go into the biology and behavior of these birds, endangered species. They mostly nest in the interior mountains, as I said, both ʻaʻo and ʻuaʻu, and to some degree probably ʻakēʻakē too, but we don't have much idea about them. So this is basically our workspace. We almost all of our working sites are helicopter access only. We don't have any like easy to hike inside. These are really the most challenging places because, so again, the story, they used to distribute across the island all around coastal and mountains, but now they are restricted to these very challenging sites because of many things like predators, light pollution probably contributed to it. And then, yeah, there's many other threats that they faced in the past. So now they are in one of the most challenging areas, but mostly we find them in the native habitats still, which also points out how and why it's still so important to protect this native habitats for these species. But we also find them in disturbed habitats. They are still hanging on in widely disturbed habitats like Anahola Mountains, for example. Most of the native habitat is really destroyed by the invasive plants, but we still hear them there and we still believe there are colonies. So this is basically, we work mostly at night in these mountains, and this is what we usually hear. Here's an ʻaʻo responding to another call while trying to clear in front of the nest. This is what they do. They keep themselves really busy in the breeding season. I cannot tell you, once you know their life, how big of an investment is the breeding for them. It's amazing. So saving these every single chick is so important. And hopefully I'll give you more information on that by the end of this talk. But this is, yeah, maintaining the nest while responding to the other calls. And we locate their nests by these calls. We do a lot of auditory surveys at night. This is how we find their nests when we go to say, we don't know where the nests are in Anahola Mountains. We go there, the first thing we do is auditory surveys, locate where the calls are coming from, and next day hike there, try to search. And this is a really detective work in the mountains. And it's amazing like how much you can achieve by just listening to these birds. They have what I say slow lifestyle. So this is one of the reasons that their populations are going down at this pace. They lay a single egg in a season. Their egg is quite big and it takes a lot of investment by the female. They have what we call pre-laying exodus. So the couples come and meet in the breeding colony. They mostly spend females and males spend their time separately in the non-breeding season. Although we don't know for sure for these species, we have not done detailed tracking studies, but most of the shearwaters and petrels behave this way. So we're assuming it's the same for these guys. And then they unite. They have a super synchronized clock, female and male. They unite, they copulate, and then the female leaves for an excursion. That's what we call pre-laying exodus. So the female will spend 2 to 4 weeks out in the ocean in the productive areas to feed on good resources and form the egg. It takes so much effort, so much time, so much distance for them. She forms the egg, she comes to the nest, meet the male again, and interestingly, male knows when the female will come. And she lays the egg, and the male takes the first incubation shift. So they, this is the story starting, like they are sharing all these duties. They are both female and male invest in the incubating of the egg and raising the chick. They have long incubation. Their incubation takes about 2 months, 50 days. And same for the chick rearing too. And then they have delayed maturity. Once the chick fledges, leaves the nest, it doesn't come back until what we believe 3-4 years. So they spend these 3-4 years out in the ocean trying to learn about the feeding sites, you know, just to make sure that when I start breeding, when I'm taking this difficult duty, I will be able to take care of my chick. And they visit the colonies still when they are young, when they are not starting breeding, but they mostly spend their life at sea. And they have long lifespan. They usually live 30 plus years. And we know the ʻaʻo's wisdom. How old is she now? 70 something?
Well, they say she's 74, but we think
She's 74, but probably she's much older than that. So this is an albatross, which is from the same family, Tubenoses family. And these birds not that long because, you know, as the size changes, their lifespan changes, we believe. At least the current science shows that. But these birds are more middle-sized, and we believe they are like 30 plus years, but we don't know actually how long they live. But 30 plus years, they are going to do this. Lay one egg, raise one chick, investment both by the male and female, and then it will take from April to, in the case of ʻaʻo, April to October, all this investment. So majority of their year is spent on raising that chick, right? Therefore, every single chick found on the ground rescued is critically important. Okay, let's see what the pairs are doing. I briefly mentioned it, but this is ʻuaʻu couple, probably reunited. This is an early time in the breeding season, April, where they unite and then they're, you know, getting ready for copulating, but then they also need to take care of their nest. Yes, there's a lot of this happening in our cameras. So like nibbling on small, you know, moving the leaves here and then there. So we don't know what's happening exactly, but they seem to spend a lot of time doing these kind of maintenance, which is really nice to see, like how they spend their time, just enjoy, chill in the mountains. Okay, then what happens to the chick? So the chick is hatched. They usually look something like this early on. And then they will grow in the deep underground burrow. So they don't see the light. These burrows are, when we are checking their burrows, every time we visit the mountain colonies, we have to go really arms deep. And as a short person, I'm most of not even able to see them really well. We use small cameras, handheld cameras, to take a photo of the burrow and to just make sure that the chick is there or egg is there. And sometimes it's really challenging. You really need to be in awkward positions to really do that. So what I'm trying to say is these underground burrows are providing many benefits for the chick's health and safety, but the chick grows in this dark burrow, so they don't see the light. And when they are growing the feathers, like in these two, in that photo, when they are growing the feathers and becoming ready to fledge, they come out and practice their wing because the burrow is so tight that they cannot do it inside probably. But when they come out, they still do it at night. So they have a biological clock, they know night and day, and they come out at night, they practice and go back. So yeah, until they fledge, they don't see much light. Okay, so let's talk about the problem. This is briefly, I mentioned their life history trace and how slow their life is. So you can imagine how slow the populations are growing. Every couple is investing one egg, one chick to the population, and it takes a lot of time to grow that chick. And then you need to make sure that that chick will survive. Even if it fledges and safely reaches the ocean, there is still 2-3 years of learning in the ocean, right? And anything can happen. So we're not just talking about keeping them safe on the land, but they also need to be safe out in the ocean. Of course, there's a natural like mortality that happens, it's kind of, it was happening before in human contact or anything, but what we try to prevent is that human caused factors. So the program that we are working for, Kauaʻi Endangered Seabird Recovery Project, has been doing radar surveys. I don't know if you, in June, July, if you ever seen a state truck driving around with a radar mounted on the top. That's us doing the radar survey. So this is basically a ship the radar that you would use on a small boat to when you're navigating out in the ocean. You know, there's no light, you cannot see who's coming from the opposite side. So you use radar for these kind of things. So we use that radar to detect the birds flying from the ocean to the mountain colonies. We are doing this at 15 sites, and this has been going since 1993, even initiated before the start of the program. And then this is systematic, same spots every single year and same protocol, same hours, etc. So when we collect the data, of course, this is not a perfect reflection of the population dynamics, because in order to do that, you need to go to the colonies and do more detailed research on these birds. But this is a good proxy for their numbers in the long term. So as you can see, for two species, we're looking at the numbers, the average annual numbers plotted for Newell shearwater ʻaʻo on the bottom one and the Hawaiian petrel, the gray one. And you can see both numbers, the trends are going down since if you plot it between 1993 and 2013 when this publication was made. So that means every year we're counting fewer and fewer birds. And there are many factors driving these declines. And good news, if I plot the same numbers between 2010 and up to now, where we really intensify the conservation management up in the mountains, the trend is more stable. Again, that doesn't mean, not necessarily means that population dynamics are stabilized, the species are not declining anymore, because again, in order to do that, you need to go to the colonies and collect data from there, but at least it's a good proxy, good indicator that something is working. So hopefully we will see even increase in the future, because there has been a lot of conservation investment. And I'm going to show you similar data from different perspective. Now we are looking at the data of Save-Our Shearwaters program, the number of fledglings they received every year. And they started way earlier than 1993. They started back in 70s by the state teams. And what we see here is the number of fledglings they were receiving first is going up. And this is probably not because more fledglings are produced. I don't know, the populations were going up, but this is because the light pollution was going up. And if you look at the history of lighting on Kauaʻi, you can really see a good overlap between the number of shearwaters on the ground and the first resorts popping up, especially in Kapa area, and I believe in Lihue, and then every other place after. And then what we see after 1995, especially Hurricane Iniki, probably also a big factor in that. It probably impacted many nests, but we see the numbers are going down because we believe that there are fewer and fewer fledglings produced every year, so then we're not receiving as many. So that also supports the decline that we see in the radar data. And we also have another data, long-term data set, an observation made in the power line collisions by the KIUC support that also shows stabilized trends for the last decade or so. And I believe SOS data is also kind of showing stabilized trends right now. So now we know the problem, they are declining, and what are some of the reasons? I will briefly mention these. I'm sure like many of them are hopefully widely known at this stage, but cats and rats, invasive mammals, are a big problem for us in the mountains. These are from our burrow cameras, and you can see a cat taking an adult bird ʻaʻo in this case, or a rat is trying to, I guess, predate on the egg. Rats can also depredate the small chicks of these species. We are trying to quantify it as much as we can, but with the burrow cameras, it's, you know, you need to put many cameras, and we are not able to put camera in every single burrow, of course. So that's something, an ongoing thing, how much it's happening, how much they are depredating chicks as well, but it's mainly eggs. The cats can really create a huge impact in a colony. Once they are in there, you know, they can take many birds at once, as long as they are reachable. And these birds active at night, they are on the ground at night. It's not just breeders coming in and digging deep into their burrow, but there's also prospecting birds who are not yet nesting, but they will start nesting maybe in the coming years, and they are usually found on the ground, so it's easy target for the cats. But unfortunately, they can even come and get them from their nests as well. So that's a big problem, and we're trying to control these two species, particularly in the mountains. It's not only cats and rats, by the way. Pigs are also a problem for the seabirds too, and that's mostly done by the state teams. We're not able to control pigs ourselves, but again, another good news, pigs are mostly gone from the Honoʻopali Natural Area Reserve System, which is one of the most pristine habitats we have in the northwestern corner of the island. And also there are other teams doing great work trying to exclude pigs from major valleys like Waiʻanae and Lumahai in the middle of the island. It's still work ongoing. I know pigs are also an issue even in the coastal sites for albatrosses and everything. So yeah, that's a collaborated effort going on. But we also have issues with the plants. So this is one of our work sites. You're looking at introduced ginger species, and it's kind of covering the whole open area and not really letting, these are what we call habitat modifying plants. These are not letting other natives to grow. These are so highly competitive in comparison to other plants. And once they are established, they are just forming these mats and not letting any other native species to grow. We are trying to control as much as we can these plants. And also here, like you can contrast that on the right side of the photo, you see a native ground cover in a seabird colony, and you can see how diverse it is. And there are open areas, there are mosses and stuff, whereas when there's ginger, there's nothing but ginger, unfortunately. So it's taking also suitable habitats, nesting habitats for seabirds too. Another set of problems we have is the power lines and the lights. I don't know if you noticed, but many of the power lines on the island have small diverters on them for the birds. These are mostly reflective patches if there is some light around the area, for example, cars driving, or there is houses and residential areas, then these are reflective patches. If it's completely dark area like the power line trail where the birds need to cross these power lines, then they use LED diverters, like they flash LED lights to divert the birds. And they are mostly working. KIUC is still collecting data on that. KIUC has an all that minimization on the island, and their monitoring data shows they are really effective, preventing thousands of deaths every year. And unfortunately, minimization projects started just a few years ago, finally, after all the long-term data collection. And it's great that it started, but how late we are in this, how many birds we lost, who knows. The other thing is lights. As I said, it's increasing. I am very optimistic about lights because there's many initiatives about wildlife-friendly lighting all over the globe, and hopefully that will be more pressing for the governments. Hopefully we will go to that direction, because it's not for the wildlife, but it's also not good for our. We are also we have a good schedule day and night. We have our biological clock as well, and these lights are also not good for us. So that's another increasing problem, and we'll talk more about it. So this is a map of Kauaʻi with the intensity of lighting, and you can see most of the areas we have, the majority of residential areas are the most light pollution areas on the island, like Lihue, Koloa, Hanapepe, Waimea, Kapa, Wailua, Princeville. This map, I believe it's a little bit old, but this is like Hanalei, Princeville, Kilauea is one of the major sites in terms of light pollution. And again, unfortunately, it's not going back very quickly. This is the change is happening definitely. We have many people collaborating with us on this, but it's a slow process. The thing with the light is we often see this. So the fledglings leave the colony. If they are on the ground because of lights, then they are most often really vulnerable to cars, cats, or other predators because of their anatomy. One thing I didn't mention much when I was talking about their life history is their anatomy. And we'll see more photos, but their legs are so far back, and they're great swimmers on the ocean. But when it comes to taking off from a flat surface with those legs, they are not really great. They are not able to stand upright to get the lift, the help that they need to basically fly. And the second thing is their wings are so long and narrow. It's not like a wide, short wing, which would generate a lot of lift once flapped. It's a long and narrow wing. So it's like, I guess many people here saw the albatrosses how they are trying to take off from the land. They have the similar problem too. So that like generating that lift is not easy when they're on the flat surface. Therefore, they mostly nest on the slopes, and their nests are kind of looking, when you're outside of the nest, you can take off easily because the slope is going down and there's lift coming from the wind, etc. So once they're on the ground, we really need to rescue them. They cannot, unfortunately, rescue themselves. Okay, this photo is not the best photo, but I think it's very impressive. This is from one of the colony sites that I mentioned earlier on the Anahola Mountains. We are looking at Lihue and Kapa'a, and this is what these seabirds see at night. So imagine you're trying to fledge from a very dark ocean, a very dark mountain, and we don't know what is the mechanism exactly, why they are attracted to lights, or even we don't know if it's an attraction or something else. Because when we use the word attraction, that means like the light is drawing the birds to the source. But there are still research projects going on to understand that mechanism. What is happening exactly? What is in their vision system that is causing this problem? We know one fact: bright white LED lights particularly are definitely drawing them in, it seems like. And so once they see these bright lights, one theory is that they use moon and stars for navigation. I think it's just, as a seabird scientist, I believe it's just one part of the story, because there are studies showing up many more different systems, like even the visual maps in their brain about their colonies and whatnot. But probably, yeah, moons and stars are one of the methods they use. And when you think about that, these bright sources might be definitely deceiving for them. And so what happens, what we know is they come to a light source, they start circling around it. It seems like they cannot find the way out of it, which is really impressive to just watch the bird circling a light. And then they circle so much that they exhaust themselves and finally end up on the ground. And once they're on the ground, as I said, they are not able to take off very easy. And that's the problem, right? So if you don't rescue it, the bird, then it will be basically taken by a cat, by another predator, or by cars. This bird is from the Kilauea Point, by the way, one of the Newells. Okay, so if we're going to talk about searching and rescuing these birds, I would like to give a little bit more detail about their size. If they bite you, it's one of the concerns, how I should approach them if they would run away. Let's talk a little bit about these kind of things. So for ʻaʻo and ʻuaʻu, the same person will be holding the bird. This is an average size man. If you know Andre, the previous coordinator for the Kauaʻi Endangered Seabird Recovery Project, he is holding these birds. And this is a ʻaʻo, Newell shearwater. You can see it's kind of, their size is really middle-sized shearwater. You can easily hold them, between your two hands. It's kind of hard to control with one hand only. Their wings are super strong. So you really need to control those wings first. And then I want you to pay attention also the coloration of the bird. So you can see it's quite dark black on the upper side and then super bright white on the lower end. So there's a really good contrast between the upper and lower side of this bird. The beak is completely black and the legs are pink and black. You can see, I mentioned they're with the same family, Tubinosus family. They have tubes on the noses. If you're able to see here, these tubes are very distinct, like very visual. And these help excrete the excess salt. So they can therefore live out in the ocean forever. They don't need to come to, a freshwater source to get their water, because they're able to, they can get whatever source they want from the ocean and then just get rid of the excess salt through these tubes. And then I also want you to pay attention to the mask. Like the head is completely black, and it seems like under the eye, there's a good clear distinction between, under the eye and upper eye. And that is a good, like super clear cut. This is with ʻaʻo. And the ʻuaʻu, you can see, is a little bit chunkier. It's, again, the same person holding this, right? You can see how small this bird is versus how chunky it is, especially the head is really much larger. the beak is much shorter than ʻaʻo, and it's a little bit thicker, but you can see the tube noses here as well. The legs are similar, pink and black, a little bit shorter than the other. And then coloration is a little bit different, right? They are more grayish on the back, on the upper part, versus ʻaʻo is really kind of black. And then when you look at the face, they still have that kind of sort of mask, but the forehead is purely white. That's also another distinction. So if you see them on the ground, because they really look like, sometimes for the layperson, you know, they really look like look alike. But this is, you can see from the face, at least from the forehead, you can tell it's an ʻuaʻu or ʻaʻo. And the ʻaʻo is, so they have all their personalities as well. ʻaʻo is mostly calm, and you know, they're just surrounded. When you grab them, they just don't do much. They don't fight back. Of course, there are some individuals fighting back and very feisty, but mostly they are really chill. Versus this guy is a monster. Yeah, when you handle it, it just fights back to the end, and it bites you. It can draw blood. Unfortunately, their beaks are really sharp, and they can really aim for these like very sensitive corners. But it's all the, I think, good parts of saving a shearwater or a petrel, probably like get some scar from it, like so proud. But yeah, one thing to pay attention is that if you see an ʻuaʻu on the ground, and if you have, you know, these reflexes because you haven't handled seabirds so much in the past, you should just be aware that they might fight back. Luckily, ʻuaʻu is a little bit less common when it comes to birds on the ground. We still have them, especially in here around Princeville, because we have some large colonies up in the mountains, and we definitely like have them on the ground here in certain hotels and whatnot. But it's mostly really ʻaʻo that is most affected by the lights. And again, that's a mystery. Why? Probably they have some differences in their vision, or how the chicks grow, etc. But we don't know exactly why. And then ʻakēʻakē, as you can see, is a very much smaller bird. Right now, it's a palm size almost. You're able to hold it in one hand, and then it's also completely dark overall, apart from the white rump, like just basically above the tail, where we call rump, and therefore it's called band-rumped storm petrel. And the legs are dark, beak is dark, but you still see the tube noses. The problem with this is every year SOS receives a few ʻakēʻakē from mostly the west side, but also from the cruise ships that are cruising between the islands. Somehow it seems like it's more of a problem out in the ocean. But personally, I do think it's an underestimate because it's such a small bird. It's probably much harder to find it. And I don't think we are noticing them as much as the ʻaʻo and ʻuaʻu, but I don't have any support to claim that they are grounding in, you know, hundreds like ʻaʻo. Probably it's much fewer birds on the ground, but again, I think there's some bias that how easy to find them basically. I also want to briefly mention, if you find a bird, if you see a bird on the ground, based on what we talked about, you know, how different personalities they can have, I think the best thing to do is try to find a towel or a shirt, clean something fabric, and then try to approach the bird from the back. If it's ʻaʻo, it's really not going to run away or do much. And if you can just, you know, throw the towel on it and then grab, especially from the back, that where you control two wings. As I said, the wings are really strong. Their feet can also be very strong, but once you contain the wings, the bird is not really going to do anything. And then the important thing is obviously they are using their beaks and the tube noses and the mouth to, you know, get some aeration, and they can really heat up much quicker than we do. Even if you feel, oh, okay, it's nighttime, the temperature is not too bad, these birds have different metabolism than we do. So the important thing is not to keep the bird long time under the towel or in a you know, contained hot environment. If you put it in a carrier or a box, it's best to have it in a ventilated place. Or I think the best resource is really the SOS boxes. Just bring it to the SOS box immediately. And you do have here in Princeville and near Hotel 1. There's one, and I don't know if there's any in fire. Oh, in here. Okay, fire station too. They are mostly around the fire stations. Yeah, and that's all I want to say, I guess, about. And the pharmacy at Kilauea. Okay. And wanting to, obviously, disclaimer, these are all endangered seabirds, right? Handling these birds requires specific permits. And we do that as the program with the permit. And holding the carcasses also requires specific permits from the state and the federal government. So obviously, when it comes to rescuing the bird, there is no problem because we are trying to save a bird's life. So general public can handle these birds and deliver to SOS. But I think wanting to really think about if you see them on the ground, if you rescue them, is really try to deliver them to the rehabilitation center as soon as possible. And if you find a carcass, try to deliver it to the state. You can contact us for that. We are collecting the carcasses because again, it's kind of illegal to really hold on to that carcass without any permit. Just a heads up. Okay, key dates about fallout is it starts in mid-September and it lasts until end of December almost because of many species involved. So for the ʻaʻo, the Newell shearwaters, September 15 to end of November, with the peak is in mid-October. And especially if the mid-October dates are overlapping with moonless nights. So the moon, if there's full moon, it's really providing a major light source for these birds. And it seems like it's reducing the fallout. SOS data, when you overlap it with the moon phase, it shows a very nice drop in the full moon nights. But this year, I believe we will be in new moon in around mid-October, right? The moon is small. So we're expecting more individuals on the ground, especially nowadays. And I highly encourage you, just take a half an hour, maybe an hour to drive at night. You can make a big difference. Even if you save one individual, it's a big difference for the population. And the Hawaiian petrel is starting around now, and it will go up to end of December. We're still kind of early for Hawaiian petrel. The peak will be more in November, but they really don't have a distinct peak like ʻaʻo. And also, as I said, we don't see them on the ground as much, but something to be aware of. Definitely, they will be on the ground. Okay, say you want to do a seabird search at night in your neighborhood, not going too far. So one question to think about is, are they only found under the lights? No, they may circle, and then end up, glide or fly, whatever, end up further from the lights. But the best place to start with is under the lights. Wherever you see there's like major light sources, this is the best place to start. Once they're on the ground, if there's cover, they will probably seek cover. And the reason for that is this is their burrows from the mountains. So very, clear entrance. It goes deep, as I said, more than my arm length in most of the cases. But this is what they will look for: small, confined space. Because if they are out practicing their wing, let's say, this is where they will go back to. This is kind of safety for them, right? When the daylight comes, this is where they go back to. Or if they are sitting in front of the burrow, and if I'm there at night trying to grab a bird, this is what they will do as well. They will try to just run back to the burrow because it's safe for them. So I highly recommend looking under cover. You should definitely look under cars. Sometimes the cover doesn't mean like burrow looking structures. It can be really just a tire right next to the tire of the car where they feel kind of dark and safe. Using flashlights is usually really helpful because at night, you don't see much, and these birds are mostly dark anyway, so it's hard to find them. So using flashlights and having that, seeing that contrast in ʻaʻo, for example, is really important. And then they may travel long distance sometimes. I don't think we have really good data in this because it's really hard to observe, but not necessarily, again, you find them right under the light, but they may travel further. So if it's a dark area nearby a huge lighting source, I would definitely look at that dark area as well. And again, a reminder, they are dark in coloration. They're not very visible. It will be hard to find them. And I always say, if you think one place is hard to search for you, like go on your knees and whatnot, it's probably the best place for a seabird. They will probably try to go and hide underneath. So some examples, some bad photos, but at least good examples. So that one of the birds were just hiding in this arrow, like right next to the fence and the tires. So this is kind of confined space, not enclosed by, all the angles, but at least the bird is feeling probably safe enough. And then we also found them in the rust holes. Like there is this teeny tiny hole on this machinery, somehow went into that because it's, again, probably burrow feeling. And then this is from one of the hotels. This is a kind of ornamental pool. They found it in the very deep section of the pool where there's, you know, a little bit like ornamental plants and rocks and whatnot. So the bird was trying to hide in between this. But again, you can see like it's kind of a tight space between the two rocks, right? And then this bird was, I don't know where this bird was found, but it went deep into one of the like pipe holes. And I don't have any idea how they rescued this bird. Like this must be, from the photos at least, this looks like a very tight and long space. I don't know how they managed to take it. Can you tell the species? Any guess? ʻaʻo. Because you can see all black head, very strike contrast, black and white, and it's the most abundant seabird on the ground. This is in one of the like hotel trolleys. It was right underneath. That's again enough safe space for them. And you can also kind of see the legs, right? This is probably most they can like get up to. So the legs are quite far back, and then they mostly like if I compare it to oral anatomy, I guess they mostly sit on this part of their leg, and they cannot really like go up straight up. Can you see the bird here?
Yeah.
Okay, the bird is, well, I cannot probably point out, but the bird is in the lower section of the plant. Again, sometimes they just put the head in a dark space, sometimes even like just two eyes covered by something, and they think they are safe in that dark space, but the body is sticking out. It's also one of the things, but this is quite a challenging, and this bird was found in the day for a reason, probably, because at night, noticing that is probably very challenging. Okay, I also want to briefly touch on when to search. So say you decided, I'm going to do some seabird searches. What is the best time? So this study conducted by the previous KESRP team, Andre Rain and the other colleagues, and they published it in 2022. This is an amazing study where in the program, they use years and years of burrow camera data. You know, I showed you photos and videos from these burrow cameras. How they use that data is basically they try to quantify when the fledglings, what time the fledglings are leaving the nest. So as you can see in the plot, we have two peaks, two spikes. This is the sunset portion. Say sunset starts here, and this is 50 minutes from sunset, 100 minutes from sunset, and then we go like up to hours. And then this is sunrise. We are here almost 2 hours before sunrise, 100 minutes, 120 minutes or so. So you can see the spikes. It's right an hour after sunset, and then 2 hours before sunrise. This is for ʻaʻo. So in most of the cases, but you can see birds are leaving throughout the night, yeah? There's not like exceptionally for these two periods. The birds are leaving throughout the night, but the most of the birds are leaving in these two time period. So if you want to search for the birds, I highly recommend giving them some time, because you know they will be fledgling, leaving the nest within an hour after sunset. So you should probably start your search a little bit after that. I think we usually recommend 3-4 hours after sunset for the especially teams that are officially part of the habitat conservation plans for light pollution. In your case, you have mountains close here. You may start a little bit earlier. But definitely, you know, not right at sunset, because they will take some time to, you know, circle around the light, be on the ground. And then also, if you're an early morning person, maybe you're getting up before the sun and it's like, I should do something different with my life now. You can go and search for the birds, especially before light. It's really important, because when it's light, again, the more time they are on the ground, they will seek cover, and it will be more difficult to find them. So the best is to focus here and then right before sunset, really. And I know there are teams doing great job with the dogs here, trained dogs, and they do evening searches, only morning searches, right? Yeah, but there's opportunity throughout the night as well. Okay, I briefly mentioned how to approach to the bird, but I think in the fledgling season, it's a great idea to keep a box or a pet carrier if you have one, and a clean towel, and a maybe small, you know, notebook, pen and pencil, or a notebook to take notes, unless you're using your phone for everything. It's your seabird rescue kit, basically. So once you see the seabird, you can use your towel to grab that bird and then put it in the box, cover it with a towel. Maybe the box has some ventilation, and then take it to the nearest aid station that SOS has, or take it to SOS directly. Yeah, Save Our Shearwater program is the main rehabilitation program on the island, and all birds must go. I mean, all endangered seabirds I'm talking about. They are not accepting all birds, but all endangered birds must go to this program. So then even if it looks super healthy, like if I release it right here, it will just fly. You should still take it, give it to the SOS program, because they need to check it. There might be some other things that, you know, health-wise going on. And then the data, minimum data we need for this is, where did you exactly find the bird? The location is important because we, after, not for every single bird, but when we receive reports from the public, we try to go to the exact same point and try to assess the lighting. What kind of lights around here, and which light might have caused the issue. And then if we can, you know, narrow it down, we can contact the organization and say, or whoever the landlord or whatever, we contact them and say, we think this light is a problem, can you help us? And you cannot believe how many people are helping us every year. My work between September 15 and December is basically contacting people, asking for turning off the lights, some of the lights, because there were a seabird found or something. And then most of the people are really collaborative, but there are some others that I don't care. And we, unfortunately, we don't have many means to force them into action, unfortunately, but we do our best, and it's good to see many people are collaborating. As Thomas mentioned, I worked on light pollution in another part of the world, and it was much more challenging to change the culture. I do think this island particularly, or maybe, I don't know, Hawaiian culture, American culture, is really much more open to, because the laws are working here. I guess that's part of the thing. And we have Endangered Species Act protecting these species. And then finally, you saw how poor the photographs were that I was showing you where the birds might be. We really appreciate if you see a bird on the ground, if you can send us the photos before you rescue it. That helps not just identifying the light sources from the photos, but also help me, you know, I'm using this kind of talks in training hotel teams to search for the birds. So that is also a good example for us. Our program, again, abbreviation is Kauaʻi Endangered Seabird Recovery Project. We call it KESRP. You can reach us kesrp@hawaii.edu. And we also have a website, easy to find. I believe that's all I have to say. And these are really 3 simple steps that we can follow between September and December. And again, it's not about someone else's light, but you can also look at your own lights. We did one of these talks with a group, and then later on, one person from the group came and said, yeah, I found this bird on my property. And where's your property? Like in one of the dark sides, somewhere in Nanaho. I was like, yeah, maybe you have a light that is a problem. And then, yeah, they were considering looking at the lights. But you should also consider your own lights here if you're contributing to the problem, and if you can turn it off, if possible, between September and December. Obviously, cats are indoors. I know this group is probably high awareness about this, but more cats on the landscape, meaning we're losing more of these birds before rescuing. And unfortunately, dogs can also harm these birds. I don't know if you saw the news, but recently there were many dog kills in one of the ʻuaʻu colonies. They can just, you know, just go and kill many birds at once if they are unleashed. And yeah, Save Our Shearwater program is our main program that these birds should go. And this is our small team. We have a website, as I said. We have an Instagram account that we are trying to keep active. We have a very small team, by the way. We're trying to really do everything at once, but we have emailing lists now. We'll kick it off soon. And if you want to join the emailing list, you can scan the QR code. Hopefully it will work. It will take you to a landing page where you need to just subscribe. If not, then you can just contact us anytime. We're also, I was going to say we're receiving donations through University of Hawaiʻi Foundation, but just seeing Thomas's talk at the beginning, how much they achieved, I just want to leave that donation part to the friends of group rather than, Kauai Endangered Seabird Recovery. But yes, we have University of Hawaiʻi Foundation for the donations. And thank you very much for your attention. Hope you find seabirds. Let us know if you do.
Thank you, Dilek. So in your wanderings around looking at lights in Princeville, Are there specific places you'd like us to look when we wake up at 4 in the morning and feel I should do something different with my life? As
Yes.
you suggest.
Yes.
So now I want to walk around, and where would I walk around?
Okay. So I need to be careful with the private land thing, but this community center, library, and the what is it? The roundabout.
The fountain?
Yeah, the fountain.
They turn
I know.
lights- they turn lights way down.
I know it's way down. It's still bright. I would definitely look around here. I know the library is quite bright at night. The street lights, they are not so many in Princeville, but unfortunately they are very bright. So I would definitely look under street. They are full cutoff in here, which is great, but they are still so bright that they are creating a huge area. And I don't want to, there's elephant in the room, obviously. All the hotels and resorts, unfortunately, the major problem here. Wherever you can go, just the parking lots, I would definitely look. And then one of my main problems, and Patty's trying to help me with that, is the signage light here, which is completely unnecessary. And that's the sort of light pollution we try to eliminate. Because there's, of course, essential lighting that we need to have, right? But there's like these signage for, I don't know, resorts or something. And then just pay attention to signage. All of the signage has upward looking two spotlights from two angles. So these are completely unnecessary. I don't know how much they are bringing the birds down, but I would also look around them as well.
So a while ago, there used to be a really strong push, DLNR was, I don't know how long ago, but for architectural suggestions for places. Is that still happening for hotels and builders? There was like this push for education about lighting. I was
Yeah.
just wondering if that is something that happened and now it's dropped off the radar, or feels like since there's constant building, it would be good to have constant, consciousness brought to however that's happening. So that was one question about DLNR. And then my other one is, so when you talked about the burrows up in the mountains being really deep and they don't really come out and see the night sky until later, and the fledglings, and I was wondering two things. When there was the cross-fostering program happening at Kilauea Point in the 80s, where they put Newell shearwaters under wedgetails, not all those burrows were very deep. In fact, some of them were just these short little pipes. And I really wonder about that, because those birds probably had more light exposure than something else would have. And also, it didn't prove to be very successful. But now, even the ones that are up in the Nihoku enclosure, I know those are like underground and they're pretty well, but they're still not super deep. So I'm just curious if anybody really knows what the role of the depth is.
That's a great question. Yeah, I'll start with the second one. I think you pointed out something really important, which is plasticity, we call. So we like to, these kind of events, outreach events, obviously we have limited time to talk about everything seabirds, right? And we tend to like generalize things a lot, but yes, there's no rules. And these species, just like any other species, of course, there are very specialized species that really cannot go out of certain boundaries, but these species are flexible enough. And I think the fact that they were distributed from the shore to mountains once, and now the fact that we still have a sustained population in Kilauea Point, to me shows how flexible they are in terms of, not necessarily they will absolutely choose these habitats, like where ohia is, where uluhe is, but they are also able to nest under halas or even plastic pipes, as you're saying. So we don't have any more plastic pipe birds. Well, we have plastic nest boxes, but not those pipes that were put out in the past. But yeah, that's a great question. It shows their flexibility, and I do believe they are more flexible than we think. We should remember that we are taking a snapshot in the timeline when we are. Even I'm talking about like SOS goes to 70s, the cross fostering goes to 80s, or radar goes to 1993. These are still teeny tiny snapshots in the evolutionary lifetime of a species, right? They are flexible. I don't know if we experiment with them, in even shallower places like some of the ʻuaʻu does. Some of their nests are completely out in the open, which is for me coming from a more strict, Mediterranean shearwater background is still mind blowing that they do it, but they are flexible. It looks like. So I don't think there's one rule about how deep the burrows are, but in the mountains, it's consistently deep. We don't see them in the shallow.
For people with here, waters and not probably they're relegated because of human pressure. I'm sure before people were here, those birds were on the coastline too.
Yeah, I do
So-
believe that too, more flexible. I do believe it's kind of, predator avoidance is pushing them more into the deeper, but also it can be competition as well between not just, human house factors, but also maybe competition between the different species as well. But I'm arguing here. We need to check the scientific literature, obviously. About your first question, it's another great question. And DLNR did, so again, my history on Kauaʻi is for 4 years, right? I cannot talk much beyond. But what I observed when I first started is DLNR did really put a lot of effort in creating that awareness about lighting. And they have still 2 pages, 1 pager lighting recommendations. I personally thought it was a missed opportunity because they promoted so much about, which is really better than nothing, so much about just full cutoff, shielding, that's about it. No one talks about the intensity of the light. No one talks about the color temperature of light. No one talks about the blue light content. Obviously, we also didn't know as much back then, but that was so effective. I cannot tell you. Whenever we contact someone and say, there's this problem, can you please help us with this lighting? The only thing they say, okay, I'm going to shield this light and that will be it. And I'm trying to convince people, not necessarily when you shield the light, like we shield the football field lights and we still attract seabirds because they are so strong. Yeah, it's like a moon on the ground, right? It's such a bright area. The current effort is, as the program we are trying to do, reach out to people, and it's really one by one. I'm really glad you brought this up. One thing I didn't mention is really important is, as far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, and we did some research on this, Kauaʻi is the only island without a lighting ordinance. All of the other islands has some sort of lighting ordinance, starting with the Hawaii Island because of dark sky heritage area or because of the night observations. And it has been going, it goes back. The Hawaii Island is quite successful. Not that they have this large seabird populations in there or ʻaʻo population, but Kauaʻi is one of the only islands left. And we really want to put more effort into convincing the council members and the county to go to that direction. So the Maui County is now going to that direction. They just had a lighting ordinance and it started to implement this year. And there's already a lot of things going on, a lot of challenges already. But what I heard from some groups is that the idea was that, oh yeah, this lighting ordinance is not really feasible to implement because we're talking about less than 2% blue light content in the street lights. And yeah, haters were trying to challenge from that perspective. But now the companies are trying to come up with these kind of lighting specs. So the more demand from the counties or the governments or whatever, there will be more opportunities, right? We have endless technologies now. We can develop these things easily. So it's good news. So I think it's time for Kauaʻi really. And that will come from public pressure because we are marginally in touch with the Kauaʻi County Council, and we always hear this. If there's no public pressure, it will be difficult. So we want to push for it a bit more, and that's the reason we're trying to come up with an emailing system, collect more, voices, and get the public to contact the county and show that it's not just the Kauai Endangered Seabird Recovery Project interested in saving these birds, but also general public. That will be really important. But yes, to summarize, for now, apart from our program, there's not much going on, but we have some habitat conservation plans related to light pollution. And since they started, it's kind of ceased that effort by the DLNR.
It's not part of your necessarily recovery work, but could you just remind me where these birds are off season when they're not here on land? What part of the ocean they're inhabiting?
Yeah, great question. We have an active project going on about that. We just put tracking devices on these birds and try to identify, quantify all these places where they go out in the ocean. But one thing we know from the past, there's just a limited number of birds tracked in the past. We know that they are leaving Hawaii, and in the case of line petrel, it goes up to Alaska. I do believe in the non-breeding season too, but they also do these kind of trips in the breeding season. So they go up north, and then ʻaʻo, as far as I know, it's more like all around. They go just far distances that we know, but they stay in the Pacific Ocean, and they just try to utilize this rich, nutrient-rich areas. But the numbers are not on top of my head, but they travel really vast distances, even in the breeding season, to bring food to the chick. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to receiving the devices this year. Hopefully, we put out, what is it, 50 something devices on Kauaʻi, 30 plus, and then we also have birds tracked on Maui and also Hawaii Island with the collaborators. So hopefully once we get these devices next year, we'll be talking more about where they go out in the sea.
That's awesome. They're also pretty impressive divers, yeah?
The ʻaʻo is.
ʻaʻo.
ʻuaʻu, I think less, and ʻaʻo is. But we are trying to also obtain funding for, so that tracking project is more a very simple device that will tell us just the whereabouts, and with some great error rates, obviously. It's not like precise GPS location, but we also try to hopefully testing next season, put GPSs, which is much finer resolution. They will give us the exact locations and the time depth recorders. So basically, if a bird dives, we will get that dive profile, how much they go down. And then, yeah, there will be probably conservation implications related to fisheries. But also it's just so cool to see it. So hopefully we'll be testing it next season.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions online? All righty, Newell.
How do you retrieve the tracking devices?
So they are on the bird's leg for now. This simple device that I mentioned, we call them geolocators. And we need to go there in the early season when they unite, because we put them on couples to see if the female and male do different things. And we need to basically grab the bird from when they're sitting peacefully in the burrow, drag it out, and then just the device is attached with a cable tie. It's very simple cable tie on a band, on a metal band. So we'll just cut the cable tie, take the device, and I get the data. The other device that I mentioned with the GPS and time depth recorders, they will be attached to the back because they are a little bit larger, so it's not suitable for the leg deployment. And we will attach it to the back with some like marine grade tape. And then that tape came off on its own unless we catch data. But we will also have some what we call base stations, where when the bird is around 1 kilometer or more of this base station, the data will be downloaded automatically. So that's the technology we are at right now. And hopefully these devices will go even smaller, because even the small devices are kind of additional burden on the bird, but that data will be important for their conservation related to at-sea threats. Good luck to us. These are challenging projects.
Awesome. Any other questions? Wow. For a small team, you're doing incredible work. We're so grateful to you. Thank you so very much.
I'm so, I just want to say I'm really, really proud of KESRP team. This is, the team changed a little bit, but we are really 5 people doing all this work, trying to go every single mountain on the island, at least the state lands, and then try to do light pollution, try to help albatrosses, right? We don't just do endangered seabirds, but we also try to help with non-listed seabird species like albatrosses and ʻuaʻu. Yeah, I'm so proud. These people are amazing. And we also have the backing of the state and the university. That's really important for us.
Are you helicoptering into places, or it's all by foot?
We don't have a single hike in work site. We always helicopter, and that inflates our budgets quite a bit.
Except for Kilauea.
Except for Kilauea, you're right.
Where it's in the pictures was, I just got KESRP to send the pictures of the down birds
Oh,
for information for you.
KESRP at Hawaii.edu is our project mail address. And you can contact us with any bird question, seabird question.
Can I ask you about mokuʻaʻi?
Yes.
Because you're doing the sound attract, the vocal attraction stuff over there. Has that had any impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, one part of our job is, apart from endangered seabirds, is also offshore islets of Kauaʻi, which for now 2. It's going to be 3 offshore islets soon. We do monitor Lehua and Mokuʻaʻi, and then hopefully we will be adding Kaula. Not like regular monitoring, but we will do some research project on Kaula. So in both of the islands, Lehua and Mokuʻaʻi, we have social attraction projects going on. Basically, we broadcast seabird calls and try to attract certain species that we believe nesting in the past on these islands, or we try to attract endangered seabirds. For Mokuʻaʻi, we try to attract band-rumped storm-petrel, which is an ʻakēʻakē endangered, and we did not have any success with it. And looking into why, one of the things we are considering is if we are calling, if you're playing, wrong calls, and that's on its own a research project, what they communicate with these calls. But I know another team is using the same calls in the mountains around Ho'oponopono, and they were able to attract 1 or 2 individuals on the ground. So it's also it can be related to proximity to the nearest colonies, because this sound is not traveling endless distances, it's limited. So we might not have any ʻaʻkēʻakē colony around. That might be another reason. Or even if ʻaʻkēʻakē is coming and flying around, then we might, the habitat might not be suitable, which I would be really skeptical about it, because again, the flexibility that I touched on a little bit. But on Lehua, we try to do Hawaiian petrels, band-rumped storm-petrels again, and tern species, sooty terns, gray-back terns. With the Hawaiian petrels and band-rumped storm-petrels, we have a little bit increase in the sound data that we captured from the other side of them. So it seems like they are flying around, especially Hawaiian petrel. We didn't capture so many Hawaiian petrels we put autonomous recording devices on the islands and record sounds at night, and then analyze that data for what's around flying. And we got more Hawaiian petrel calls, but the tern site is really exciting. We got some sooty terns on the ground in front of cameras right next to the speakers, but we also got masked boobies on the ground. Interested in, yeah, they seem to just come next to the speaker. So that's exciting. I do believe, I'm hoping at some point sooty terns will start nesting on Lehua. We don't have any known colony on these offshore islands, or I believe they are on Kaula, but we don't know much about it. But yeah, for endangered seabirds, unfortunately, it didn't work much in terms of birds on the ground. But these projects takes time. We're patient and we're trying to improve them. Yeah.
I have a question over here. Mahalo first for your great talk and such great work. But the question is, are owls a significant predator?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. Owls are, the barn owl, introduced barn owl, is a major problem up in the mountains for these endangered birds, but also for ʻuaʻu and any other seabird, or I believe, I don't know if anyone captured waterbird predation, but there might be also waterbird issue too. So we always tell, whenever we see, there are some signs that we are able to tell this is an owl predation. And whenever we see that, we always assign it to barn owls. But Mokuʻaʻi, the social attraction project, helped us to put out more cameras to monitor, the nest boxes and what's happening. And in one of the Mokuʻaʻi cameras, we actually captured pueo predating on bulrus petrel. Bulrus petrel are also another small petrel species, like larger than ʻaʻkēʻakē. So pueo is smaller than the barn owl. So we do believe, again, this is not coming from intensive monitoring, but we do think they are predating less on seabirds. They're also not as active at night as the barn owls, but it's obvious they're definitely taking some seabirds, and I don't know to what extent. We always found many bulrus petrels predated by owls on Mokuʻaʻi, and that population is kind of fluctuating a lot because the fledglings are not making it to the ocean, seems like. But we always assign it to barn owls, but I don't know how much is pueo. But yes, owls are unfortunately a big deal, and there's a lot of effort all around the island to control barn owl population. migrations as well. And it's, taking time. And we don't know much about these birds as well, barn owls themselves, like how they're traveling, if they have, territorial, like how big the territories are, how many couples in certain areas. It's also very sporadic, that it's not regularly happening in the mountains like cats.
Well, thank you again. What a great talk. We really appreciate it.
You too.
That's it. Wow.
It's hard to ask.